Hello everyone, Canon here, and getting to another CannonChat. So it's been another month, and it's time to throw out some updates. So it has actually been a little bit longer since I have uploaded the CannonChat, being around 40 days between the last one. So I definitely wanted to get these updates out there. So for the meat of it, for the moving process, me and my parents have moved out maybe 2/3 of our stuff, maybe 3/4 as a generous estimate. And there's stuff that we need to do in the new house, as well as the old house, for stuff that we need to do in each of the rooms. So, before I go any further, this is just Arknights to play in the background, so I can do some tests while I talk about a few things. And hopefully it's not too loud. So, yeah, one thing that was definitely shocking was that in the new house, there was a really bad storm for both houses locations. They were on different days, and there was really bad storms for one day on different days for each house. And for the first house, the old house, there wasn't any major damage, so it was just basically cleaning up what happened with that, and then that was sorted out. But for the new house, we had a gigantic tree, and what happened is that a tree fell and punctured a huge hole in the ceiling for the new house, in my room, as well as in the wall. So we were gonna remodel my room anyways, for like paint and whatnot. So we were gonna do stuff with that room anyway, but it might cost a little bit more because of those complications, and take a little bit longer for me to get set up in the new house with my room specifically. So that has definitely been interesting, to say the least. So we'll see how that ends up being. So on to more gaming news. So Arknights is doing Dark Knight's Memoir rerun, which is what I'm doing for stages right now. And doing a few tests and stuff for the for making a video or two on that, on some of the stages. And then on top of that, Genshin Impact is pretty close to having their second anniversary, which is kind of interesting. And with that, that means like extra wishes and whatnot, and they added a fishing minigame to Genshin, which has you fishing way too long, to say the least, in order to get arguably the only valuable item from that. So that's kind of funny. But with that, pretty much like the most interesting thing when it comes to gaming is that me and Warmonger have tried out Dungeon Siege 1 once again. So yes, the game that was made in 2003, or at least the expansion. We had quite a good time playing that, and we decided to play on hard difficulty. For our characters, and then on top of that, we are both playing mages. So that is very interesting, because we have actually tried playing the game before, and what happened is that I got ahead of Warmonger by playing the usual melee and ranged mix of character. So Dungeon Siege 1 was a game that was made in the early 2000s, and I'm not sure how popular it was. I think it was decently popular at the time. But these days, being an over 18-year-old game, obviously the graphics are not the best, and the gameplay is a little clunky, especially on like getting your character to move and stuff, because unfortunately when you set your character up to run away, basically, it is incredibly easy to make it so that they can make it incredibly easy so that you just press on a part of the train that you simply can't really do anything with. So it's definitely like when I play it, like I can definitely tell it is an old game, without a doubt, like mechanics and all. But it was really fun at the same time, though, because in some ways, because of its simplicity, which is kind of an interesting thought for sure. But at the same time, if you think about it, a lot of the games back then, at least, either had really bad quality of life stuff, and I mean Dungeon Siege 1 also has that to some extent, so I mean obviously it's not exempt by any means. but let's just say that there is quite a few things that yeah, like I was saying, there's quite a few things that definitely feel like they could have been improved at the time, or comparatively speaking to those days. Of course the Sentinel goes over there. Kinda close. So yeah, it has been quite a joy actually to play that game again, and I think once we get to Dungeon Siege 2, if we're gonna do that, that we might even have more fun with it, because Dungeon Siege 2 takes notes of what Dungeon Siege 1 does, and I think does quite a few things better than Dungeon Siege 1. But what is really funny is that when you think about it, a game from 2003, so an 18-year-old game, has quite a few quality of life features that a game like Path of Exile, that is still being updated to this day, does not have. Like Dungeon Siege 1 has auto-sorting inventory. It has a button to click to automatically pick up stuff, especially gold, or in Path of Exile's case, currency. So it's just amazing to me in some ways. Path of Exile is one of those games where, while it does have a lot of things going for it, quality of life is rarely implemented when it should. Like, there are a lot of things that they should have definitely addressed by now, but it seems like in Path of Exile, their design team, GGG, only seems to add quality of life when they need to add quality of life to offset a very big player base complaint. So for an example, let me think. So with this last update in Path of Exile, they essentially made flasks a lot less valuable, a lot less powerful, and also giving you less charges, as well as a lot of balancing things that it seemed that a lot of people with my playstyle of the game really didn't like. So then, to offset that negativity, they add quality of life in order to be like, hey, look, we have this now. Don't quit the game, essentially. But sadly, that just isn't really enough in Path of Exile's case. Like, I think in many ways Path of Exile kind of lives and dies on its skill interaction diversity. And and at least for me anyway, the main reason why I was able to put up with GGG's lack of quality of life, as well as other things they keep messing up that I don't agree with, was because Path of Exile's most fun aspect was from the build diversity that you could do. And I was kind of thinking to myself, at the time, I pretty much don't really play Path of Exile anymore. Warmonger doesn't really either, because of those, well, especially the flash changes, but everything in that entire package, so to speak, we just kind of done away with. And just decided not to do anything for that. Kind of getting distracted here. So like I was saying, the main reason why we were able to put up with the lack of quality of life and all of these other changes that they kept making that we didn't agree with, was because the gameplay itself, at least on paper, was really amazing. And if you got a build that was optimized, you would get it would be unbelievably satisfying. But the problem is getting to that point, as well as GGG basically keep doing updates to take that aspect of the game away from you, with them trying to make the game harder and slower and all that. So there is that. But ironically enough, with how things are going, me and him are probably going to play Dungeon Siege 1, a game made in 2003, rather than Path of Exile, just because of Path of Exile's latest patch that messed up a lot of things. My goal here with this map is using Dusk's skill to alert the one guys, but it doesn't really seem to be working all that well. Oh, I could have finished him off there. Oh well. Yep. So yeah, while that was a pretty big derailment, of should I yeah, that'll work. Derailment and topic. I guess the overall point of this CannonChat was primarily to talk about how much work we still have left to do to finish our move that has been taking up a lot of our time. As for the gaming stuff, Genshin having its first year anniversary pretty soon here, and they added fishing, but there's pretty much only one thing worth getting in fishing, and it takes an unbelievably amount of time to fish all the fish you need in order to get it, so that's enjoyable, in the most sarcastic sense. And then me and Warmonger playing Dungeon Siege 1 of all games in 2021 instead of playing Path of Exile. Yeah. That's definitely something. Something you probably wouldn't want to write on the box. I stopped playing Path of Exile to play Dungeon Siege 1 in 2021. Oh, man. And me and him haven't really decided, but we might actually do a playthrough of that game on this channel. To do... I'm not entirely sure if I can English. I'm not entirely sure what all we are planning on doing. We might do a playthrough of only one of the campaigns. We might do all three. I don't know. I don't really know yet. But the thing is that that is kind of what we're looking at instead of finishing the Path of Exile to level 100 series, which that series, as sad as it is for me to say, I would have liked it if we got a lot closer to level 100 before we ended that. But with the recent nerfs and the monster buffs and all of that fiasco in Path of Exile that completely killed our motivation in order to play the game, I just really don't see us ever really returning to Path of Exile to finish that series in a serious sense. So it seems like unless GGG go back on a few of their stances, that series isn't likely to be returning. I do plan on continuing to do a league review every time they do a major update, like just to throw out my thoughts on the game. It's kind of one of those things that even though that I don't think I'll ever really play Path of Exile seriously anymore, in the sense of trying to do a new league and getting to level 80 and trying to get high tier maps and whatnot. I don't think I'm doing that anytime soon. But I still am interested in seeing the game evolve in a sense. And even if I don't agree with the direction that they want to put the game, I still want to throw out their, like, the ideas, like their league mechanic as well as the balance changes that they do, because I am genuinely surprised that GGG has done so well on diversifying, at least to some extent, what the league mechanics offer. Like, Harvest was a completely new thing. Legion was basically a breach, but you could decide on how many enemies you wanted to kill. Abyss was like a slower paced breach. Expedition is sort of like a slower paced breach as well. So I mean, there's like kind of a lot of overlap like in the ideas, but I think in their execution they've done a really good job on making each patch at least add a little bit of new flavor to everything. so that is why I continue to do those. But yeah. So lastly, before I end it here, for the Arknights channel, I'm still going to focus on that channel as of right now, and to be completely honest, I'm not even doing a super swell job of coming out with videos because of the move, as well as me not really wanting to do anything in between those moving times. Like, I just kind of want to relax and do my own thing after doing errands for my parents. So we'll see how that goes, I guess. But yeah, as of right now, that's pretty much all of the updates, and hopefully that keeps any of you informed that were curious to know what was going on. And if me and Warmonger decide on the Dungeon Seed series, well, I'll probably mention it in a CannonChat later, or we'll just start the series. As well as Minecraft, I'm probably not going to start that until the move is done, or at least mostly done, because I think for that project I'm going to want to try to at least have somewhat more consistent uploads. So with that being said, though, thank you very much for watching, and have a wonderful day.